There are 3 days already marked on a calendar, and they are the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th of October. For decades, those 3 dates were a routine affair, the kind that organized themselves and that no one outside the industry noticed. This year, they are no longer, because in August, something changed in the place towards which those 3 dates point. The response to that change came 9 days later, in a short statement, and it contained a phrase that has already become a slogan. The place is Lourdes, one of the most visited Marian shrines in the world, and the change is dated August 13th. That day, Monsignor Jean-Marc Micas, Bishop of Tarbes and Lourdes, signed a statement on the annual pilgrimage of the Society of St. Pius X. The decision is motivated by the episcopal consecrations of Econ on July 1st and by the decree that the Holy See issued the following day. The content must be read carefully, because it has been told in a more drastic way than it is. This means, inside the sanctuary, the fraternity will no longer celebrate Mass, will no longer administer the sacraments, and will no longer organize public prayers. However, it does not mean that anyone has been excluded from the sacred enclosure, and the distinction is written in the statement itself. Priests and faithful remain authorized to go to the grotto or to all places of the sanctuary to pray privately, and this is the exact formula. In his message, the bishop doesn't sound like someone who's winning a battle. He writes that he's well aware of the pain and perhaps the misunderstanding the decision will cause. The District of France of the Fraternity responded on August 22nd with a statement signed by Abbé Gonzague Pignot and dated Suresnes. In responding, the fraternity does not dispute the facts or question the authority of the signatory. It does challenge the appropriateness of the decision and does so in a few lines. Micas, in his statement, had used an ancient and heavy image to describe the situation, the tearing of Christ's tunic. Pignot, for his part, opens by speaking of pain and incomprehension, which are exactly the 2 words the bishop had foreseen. The bishop had closed his text by invoking Our Lady of Lourdes to come to his aid, and the formula he had used excluded no one. The fraternity, however, doesn't close with an invocation. It announces. It says it will continue to come to Lourdes every year, and it says so unconditionally. The comparison he chooses to explain it is precise and must be well understood, because it is not accidental. Like going on pilgrimage to Rome during Jubilee years, this means that a pilgrimage does not depend on who opens or closes a door, but on the place itself and its inhabitants. The phrase that is circulating throughout the French Catholic press, however, is another, and it is the one that concludes the argument. Our Lady does not deserve to be abandoned, writes the district superior, despite the obstacles. The bishop, for his part, had not written a line about the future. His statement concerned the present and the perimeter of the sanctuary, and stopped there. The district, however, puts the future down on paper, and does so in the simplest way possible, by publishing a calendar with 3 dates. The bishop's text concluded by asking Our Lady of Lourdes to come to the rescue, and he asked for that help for everyone, without distinguishing between the parties involved. The fraternity agreement, on the other hand, ends with a commitment, and the difference between asking for help and committing to return lies right there. The practical point remains that established by the bishop, and the fraternity does not pretend otherwise in its text. The faithful will be there, but the pilgrimage will no longer be able to have the same public form as in past years. No Mass inside, no organized processions, no communal prayers in the enclosure. In their statement, however, the fraternity adds an element of comparison, and here we must be scrupulous about who says it. This channel isn't saying it. The fraternity is saying it, and it concerns another pilgrimage that the same sanctuary hosted last year. This is an interreligious pilgrimage, Christians and Muslims together, which took place in Lourdes from the 18th to the 21st of October 2025. What can be verified is that the initiative was included in the sanctuary's official calendar, and that it took place in the presence of Monsignor Micus himself. The pilgrimage in question was titled Together with Mary, and the subtitle defined it as a journey of Christians and Muslims, pilgrims of hope. The program also included a meeting open to all in the Notre Dame chapel of the sanctuary, with testimonies, readings, songs, and prayers. For the sake of completeness, it should be added that it was organized together with Secours Catholique, the French Caritas, and that the published program did not include any common Eucharistic celebration. The comparison is therefore materially accurate, and those who make it do so with public data. But it must be explained what it does and does not demonstrate. The two things are not canonically equivalent, and anyone who equates them is missing an important point. A meeting of prayer and testimony between believers of different religions is not the same as a mass celebrated publicly by ministers whose canonical status is the subject of a decree of the Holy See. Those who defend the bishop observe precisely this. His decision does not concern who can enter to pray, but who can celebrate publicly in a sanctuary for which he is responsible. Those who support the fraternity reply that the criterion, applied in this way, produces a result that the faithful struggle to understand, and which the bishop's statement is the first to admit. Then there's a technical issue that has come to the fore in recent days, and it needs to be explained precisely because it's circulating poorly. The Holy See's decree on excommunications is dated July 2nd. On July 11th, the General House filed a preliminary appeal. Canon 1735 gives the person who issued the decree 30 days to revoke it, correct it, reject the request, or remain silent. That deadline has passed, and no response has arrived. From that moment, the time for the actual hierarchical appeal begins to run. The headline circulating, however, says that the appeal has been rejected, and this is not the case. It has lapsed into silence, which canonically is a completely different thing. There are also those who remember that according to Canon 1353, an appeal of this kind suspends the execution of the decreed penalty. But be careful not to push that string too far, because the next step doesn't hold up. The decision taken in Lourdes is an act of government by the local bishop, not the execution of the Roman penalty. What happens now, however, does not require taking anyone's word for it, because it has a date. On October 24th, the fraternity pilgrims will arrive in Lourdes, and we will see how many there are, what they will do, and where. We will see if they will go to the grotto one by one in silence, as the bishop's statement allows. We will see where the Mass will be celebrated, and in all likelihood it will be outside the enclosure, as already happened this year in Argentina. And above all, it will be seen whether the number will increase or decrease compared to the years in which they were able to celebrate and pray publicly there. We'll return to this story with the real numbers in 2 months, and on that day, the answer won't be provided by a press release or a channel like this. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.